Courts in session. We're here for labor versus capital investment. A classic battle of paychecks versus profits. Let's keep it respectful. No throwing gavels. And yes, Ryan, I see that smirk.
Your Honor, America didn't become a superpower by accident. Capitalism built this country. After World War I, business leaders helped us bounce back. But then 1919, boom, strikes in Seattle, Boston, the steel industry, even bombs in the mail from anarchists. We weren't being greedy, we were trying to stop the country from going full Russia.
Except, workers weren't trying to overthrow the government. They were trying not to pass out at work. 12-hour shifts, barely enough to afford bread, and we got labeled communists just for asking, hey, can I not die on the job today? Real extreme, right? Let's hear from someone who lived it.
Imagine standing next to a furnace all day with zero brakes, no safety gear, and no fans. It was like working inside a volcano. We weren't trying to burn capitalism, we just wanted to get home without catching fire.
And how did you address these issues?
Mainly workers' units striked and protest, but sometimes we had to take legal action before anything got done.
But some strikes turned violent, didn't they?
Yeah, a few people were desperate, but most of us just marched. The only thing I carried was a sandwich, and even that was stale. The press made us sound like bomb throwers, but we just wanted 2 working knees and a raise.
So why did management resist?
Because strikes weren't cheap and threatened the industry more and more. Every strike cost us millions, a large loss in profit. Strikes struck fear of radicalism into businesses, and we believed that what we had was true free market capitalism. Every strike cost us millions. Steel strikes, devastating. Investors panicked. Some union leaders were tied to the IWW, or known as the Industrial Workers of the World. Sounds like a supervillain gang. We offered perks, higher pay, company baseball teams, even free coffee, but they still wanted more.
You mentioned a fear of radicalism. Why did you fear that the labor movement was stepping towards communism?
Some parts of the labor movement embraced socialist or communist ideologies, calling for the abolition of capitalism and worker-controlled production. And after the Bolshevik Revolution, we feared the US might follow Russia while unknown the bombings, strikes, and political unrest.
So did you fear empowering workers? If so, why?
Yes, by far, many of us did. If labor had too much power, they would demand public ownership of key industries, try to distribute wealth, and undermine American values.
Professor, were the fears of communism real or just paranoia?
Yeah, there was legit fear. In 1917, Russia had a full-on revolution. Lenin took over, no private property, no churches, or no free speech. Secret police check out spied on everyone. Farms collapsed, millions starved. People who complained, they disappeared. So yeah, people saw that and said, hard pass. Fear, yes, but the reaction, over the top. After bombings ended in 1919, the Palmer raids kicked in. Thousands arrested, no warrants, mostly immigrants, barely any evidence. If your last name ended with a vowel, you were basically arrested for existing.
So the fear was real, but the response? Kinda nuts?
Exactly. Protecting Americans is one thing, forgetting the Constitution to do it, whole other problem.
Can you talk more about how immigrants were affected?
Totally. Immigrants from places such as Italy, Russia, and Poland, immediately suspicious. People thought anyone who had an accent was carrying a bomb. Palmer raiders hit immigrant neighborhoods the hardest. People were arrested without cause just for showing up to work.
What about their rights?
Gone. Free speech, gone. Assembly, gone. Free trial, gone. All ignored. Racial newspapers were shut down. Union meetings were raided. The First Amendment basically took a vacation during the Red Scare. True, but it turned into a witch hunt. The Constitution isn't Americans only, it's for everyone.
Let's talk about Sacco and Vanzetti, 2 Italian immigrants accused of robbery and murder. The evidence? Super weak. Eyewitnesses couldn't agree. The ballistics were shaky, but they were anarchists, so boom, guilty, executed.
They were anarchists. That scared people.
But since when is having a weird opinion a death sentence? They weren't convicted for a crime, they were convicted for being different. That wasn't justice, that was fear in a judge's robe.
Don't I know the feeling?
Capitalism made America powerful. It kept businesses alive, but when labor started shrinking, it felt like the system was cracking. We needed to open shops to stay afloat and stop chaos.
But fear made us forget who we were. Immigrants were treated like criminals, union leaders jailed. The First Amendment was crushed. Sacco and Vanzetti? That wasn't law, that was the Red Scare. Workers weren't the enemy, fear was.
This court finds, yes, management had real fears, especially watching the Soviet Union fall apart, but America's response, way too far. Workers' rights were stomped on, immigrants were silenced, the Constitution was ignored, and Sacco and Vanzetti, there was no justice, only tragedy. America needs strength, sure, but it also needs fairness. Case closed.